Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ed Talks. Failed it. That's the session. That's what it's called. Yeah, you can laugh as well. Which I'm pleased to say is back for its third year, and I'm going to be here to guide you through this morning's session. I also want to congratulate all of you on making it this far in the week in Edinburgh, which I've realised is the biggest piss up of the year. I mean, it's ridiculous. I've never drunk so much alcohol in my life. God knows what has happened to your livers. Before we start, one of the things where people are going to be talking about is failure, and I think the most important thing about failure is what you learn from it. And I suppose just a quick story. When I first started to get into TV and I started getting recognised, I remember pushing down Romford High Street, as you do if you come from East London, and I got recognised by these two really nice-looking young ladies across the road, and they were smiling at me, waving at me, and I was looking over across, thinking, yeah, I'm all right now. I've got some skills in my chair, just pushing, just smiling at them, pushing in one direction, they waving, winking. Didn't look where I was going. Smashed straight into a curb, out of my chair. My shoes stay in the chair. My trousers fall down. I'm out in the middle of the Romford High Street. These girls come running over to me to say, "Are you all right? You're all right." I'm so embarrassed. Get into my chair and I get out of the way because I'm just like, I'm not having this. And I suppose the lesson I learned is to always wear a good belt and every day make sure you're wearing your best undercrackers because you never know when you're going to have to free willy. I'm telling you, mate. Now. Listen, over the next hour, we're hoping to engage, inspire you as we hear from some amazing speakers who will give you all a different perspective on the theme of failure, which is no reflection, of course, on the level of their talent because they're all extraordinary people. Now, speaking to you today, we've got a stand-up comedian, actor, writer, Viv Groskop, actor, presenter and campaigner Adam Pearson, Senior Vice President at ABC Amy Hartwick, and comedian and actor Paul Chowdhury. But now to kick things off, and hoping we finish on time because she has to perform Be More Margot later, it's Viv Groskop.
Makes me that much stronger, makes me work a little bit harder, makes me that much wiser. Thanks for making me.
Thank you so much, Ade. Well, I have already failed it by being born with this name that no one can pronounce. You have joined a roster of many luminaries from Jeremy Paxman to John Humphreys to Richard and Judy. No one has got my name right ever. It's Viv Groskop, and I'm very stupid to appear in front of you with this name. No one has a name more stupid than this name, Viv Groskop, other than my sister, Trudy Groskop, who is a teacher in a very rough school near Carmarthen where her pupils call her Madame Tosspot, which brings me no end of joy. But this has been a name that I've suffered with and has represented failure for me all of my life. I grew up not knowing what this name meant, Viv Groskop, and constantly being told by my parents that it was a very, very English name. My parents were a bit UKIP before UKIP was invented. They're very happy at the moment. And I always had this idea that if I couldn't embrace my name and embrace my identity, then I would always be a bit of a failure as a person. So I decided I would decide for myself where this name came from and what it meant. And I decided that it would be Russian because it sounds a bit Russian, Groskop. And my grandparents had a Russian friend who was a very beautiful Russian lady, and she was like the sort of person I wanted to be like. She was glamorous, and I loved her. And I thought, I'm going to be Russian. And I took it so literally because I wasn't getting any feedback from my family on who we really were, that I took it completely to heart and became obsessed with being Russian, with learning Russian. I went to university, studied Russian, got a first from Cambridge in Russian. I went and I worked for Russian Vogue for 10 years as a writer. I learned to speak Russian fluently, so much so that could even be mistaken for a Latvian. It was that amazing. I slept with 17 Russian men. You have got to finish the job properly. And then after this long period of devoting my life to immersing myself in what I thought were my roots, this took about 15 years, I heard from a long-lost cousin in Canada who traced our entire family tree, and it turns out that we're actually from Poland. So all this time when I'm trying to not be a failure, I had been living in the wrong country, learning the wrong language, and sleeping with the enemy. And all of that is not a story, it's my actual life. And it's a life of total and utter failure. So all the time when I was doing this and trying to fix this mistake of my name, I was also failing a lot in my career, in that I had a very, in inverted commas, successful career as a writer and a journalist. But to me inside, it was a massive failure because I wasn't doing the one thing that I'd always wanted to do, which was to write for theatre and television, and to act and to perform and to do stand-up comedy. And it took me a long time to work out whether it was okay for me to do this because I grew up in an environment where my parents not only didn't admit where our name was from, because basically it's Jewish and means fat head, but they didn't encourage me to do performance, and I'm sure lots of you in this room identify with that kind of background. So it wasn't until I had my own 3 children, which is an answer to the question, how many children is too many, that I realised... Use contraception, young people. I realised in my mid-30s that I was telling my children a lie. That this success that they could see of my career was a lie because I wasn't doing the thing that I really wanted to do. And I was always saying to my own children, live your dreams, you know, all the things that we tell children. Do what you want with your life, follow your bliss, don't be judged, you know, by others, do what you want to do. But for me, it wasn't true. And I did what every good middle-class British woman does, and I sought the advice of a life coach. And I went to see this life coach when I was having this midlife crisis, and she asked me this one question: what's the one thing you're not doing in your life? And I just said, comedy. And I didn't know where it came from. And she said, great, that'll be £300, please. But it was actually a moment that changed my life because it gave me permission to go on and study how to do comedy, to realise that there are workshops out there, there are other people on this quest trying to work out how to do it. And I set off on this journey where I began to fail at the thing I most feared failing at, and that was to perform. And I ended up doing this experiment where I did 100 gigs in 100 consecutive nights. And the anniversary of me doing that actually falls on Sunday. I started doing that 5 years ago on Sunday, on August 28th, 2001. Oh, thank you. I did this experiment not knowing whether at the end of it I would be a performer or not knowing if I would finish it or not. And it started with gig number 1, the first stand-up gig I did, where a man came up to me at the end and said, that was amazing, you really remind me of Victoria Wood. And I just started crying, and I was a bit fatter then and had short blonde hair. And he said, oh no, I don't think you're funny, I just think you look like her. So that was gig number 1. And somehow I kept going and I kept going through all this 100 gigs, and I had many, many terrible moments of failure. I had learnt how to deal with heckling, you know, people shouting from the back of the room, 20 pounds to see your titties. From quite a large man, I shouted back, 20 pounds to put yours away, sir. So you learn to deal with these things, and you learn that the thing that you fear the most is not as bad as the fear itself. And for me, the fear of failing at the thing I most wanted to do was actually much worse than actually failing at it. And it was during this experiment of doing these 100 nights where I couldn't give up because it was 100 consecutive nights. If I missed a night, I had to do 2 gigs the next night. If I missed 2 nights, I had to do 3 gigs the next night. And I managed to do it. And at the end of it all, I realised that it was the moments where I failed but still enjoyed it and still learnt that meant the most to me, and that meant that it was the thing that I really should do. So I faced up to this fear of failure, and for me, what it represented was a fear of feedback, fear of criticism, fear of the audience. And I just want to give you a quick example of what I've gone on to do since. So I'm going to tell you about some reviews I've had for 2 books and for 2 shows. 1 book is a failure, 1 book is a success. 1 show is a failure, 1 show is a success. So 1 book, the one that was a success, had 5-star reviews, hilarious, said The Times, heroic, said The Independent, loads of 5-star reviews on Amazon, people saying, when are you going to write your next book? This is amazing. Great success. Another book had 3-star reviews, this is supposed to be a book about comedy. It doesn't have any jokes in it. It's not funny. The review from The Observer, a paper that I'd written for 15 years, should be the most generous review, said, this is a rather breathless narrative, which is, we all know, is code for, I did not want to read this book, and said that I don't have enough self-knowledge to write a book like this. This book was a failure. So with a show, I had a show which had 5-star reviews. Viv was at the top of her game as a stand-up, brilliant, funny. Had another show which had 2-star reviews. This is unfunny, unremarkable, tedious. Not that I, know these things off by heart. But the thing about those 2 books and those 2 shows, one success, one failure, one success, one failure, it's one show and one book, because I have only been able to complete so far one show and one book. But those reviews are of the same show and the same book. So how do I judge whether the show was a failure or the book was a failure when I've had responses at both ends of the spectrum? And the answer for me is that I don't judge, because it's not for me to say whether my work, when I put it out there, is a success or a failure. I choose to measure it by much more simple, factual things, such as, did I turn up and do the show? Yes, therefore it is a success. Because you can't be measured by 5 stars, 1 star. These things don't matter. They're nice things to have, but they don't matter. And ultimately, they're the reason I was a total fathead, and I didn't do the thing that I wanted to do for such a long time, because I was afraid of those responses, instead of learning to just embrace them, get on, turn up, and do the work. So for me, the ultimate embracing of failure was represented by a review I had for a show that I did here last year. And the review gave me 2 stars, and it said, Viv Groskop is not a stand-up comedian. However, I am sure she is very funny at her own dinner parties or at the tennis club. And I thought, this is devastating. But when I'd finished crying into my pins, I thought, well, maybe this is not such a bad review, because I do throw a rather wonderful dinner party, and I'm so glad that someone thinks I look as if I could play tennis. So please, embrace failure, but most of all, embrace the game. Thank you so much.
That was brilliant, Viv, brilliant. And of course, I pronounced your name wrong as part of the theme of failure. I failed to do it right. And thank your lucky stars you're not married to a Nigerian. I know some guy called Ifani Chuku Uzomaga Imagi. And you have to say Imagi right at the end. Call him Effie for short. There you go. Listen, now we're going to go on to introduce our next speaker, and you may know him from his acting work on Under the Skin, or his presenting work on Tricks of the Restaurant Trade, or The Ugly Face of Disability Hate Crime. Please welcome to the stage, Adam Pearson.
I am the one and only.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. When I was first asked to do this, I was very excited. I was like, Ed Talk, yes! The phone rang, the agent called, do you want to do an Ed Talk? I'm like, yeah! It's on failure. Oh. I'm clearly an expert in that. And it turns out I am. I have already failed once today. But when I was writing this, I was like, you need a strong opening joke that's going to resonate with telly peeps, because we all think very differently. But I didn't Google who else was going to be speaking. So my original opening joke that I have since had to rewrite in the past half an hour is, hello, my name is Adam Pearson. I will be your token disabled presenter for today.
Sorry. Taxi.
So, here is the joke I rewrote in the last half an hour. I know what you're thinking. Wow, 2 disabled people in the same session? This diamond thing's kicked in quickly. Thank you. Though, in order to talk about failure and how it affects us, we first need to know what it is. For some bizarre reason, we are all terrified of failure. The mere notion that we may fail at something can keep us up at night or stop us from doing things. So I have prepared some marvellous videos to show what failure could potentially look like in the everyday world.
Eis hier überall. Ja,
Ist egal, überall rein.
in der Mitte am besten da.
Ja. Ich will nicht mal gucken, nicht dass das zu hart ist. Nicht drauf?
Ja.
Motherfucker, fuck the fucking world, and my new band is called Siskill. Oh, mein Arsch. Oh, guck mal, es geht gar nicht runter. Perfekt, oder?
Name something a woman does for her baby that she... Yes.
Changes his diaper.
Changes his diaper. Name something a woman does for her baby that she also does for her hubby.
So there we are. Whether you're trying to win $10,000, spoiler alert, didn't win, or doing a slam dunk or jumping into or over a pool, you can fail at it. But what all those people have in common is that in doing so, they were trying to do something in their own minds that was epic. I think when we think of failure, we think about it in the complete wrong way. We think of it as a lack of success, as opposed to thinking of it as a mission to take required action. I believe the reason that we fail is so that we can learn to do things better. If you look at small children, they have no concept of failure. Their life is literally swing stuffed toys and roundabouts. So when they try and walk and don't do it, they very quickly go, oh well, let's try that again. And eventually they learn to walk. And I think we all need to embrace that attitude. Failure sometimes can be thrust upon you. When I was at school, I was put in quite low sets. I was tested for special needs, even though I clearly didn't have any. And as a result, I kind of took the label on. I didn't challenge it. I didn't try and do something epic. I didn't try and break the ice or slam dunk the ball. I merely coasted along. And it wasn't until I turned 16 where I took a step back and thought, hang on, wait a minute, this isn't who I am. I think in the heart of every person is this desire to be so much more than you actually are. But by the same token, there's this worrying voice in the back of your head that says, but what if it doesn't work? You prove everyone right. And so my encouragement to you today is to say, ignore that. Don't listen to that voice and let your actions do your talking for you. When I auditioned for Under the Skin, I received an email that said they're looking for a man, check, with a genital condition, check, age 35 to 40, with manual labouring experience. Hell to the no. But nevertheless, I thought, let's apply for it. At least I get to waste someone's time, which is one of my many hobbies. And then one thing led to another, and even in applying for this, I failed epically. On the way to the final meeting, the audition, I was crossing Tottenham Court Road opposite the American Church and was hit by a black cab and broke my leg. And not sort of like hairline fracture, proper knee pointing one way, foot pointing the other way. If you're going to break your leg, break it properly. And then apparently, I don't remember anything because morphine is a hell of a drug. The director first met me. My first impression was under a taxi in my pants, surrounded by paramedics, high as giraffe's arse on morphine. So when Addy says, make sure you've always got your best knacker-chackers on, I endorse this message. My name's Adam Pearson, I endorse that message. And apparently this conversation went thusly. Bloody hell, Adam, I didn't realise you did your own stunts. To which I replied, do I look like I'm the kind of guy that has a stunt double? So in that moment, what seemed like an abject failure, because if someone turned up to an interview with me and they broke their leg, I'd be like, you're a health and safety risk, this probably ain't gonna happen, but get well soon, here are some flowers. What seemed like an abject failure, in fact, clinched me the job. I've got no idea how. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe I was the only person that had actually applied and I was the best of a bad job. All I know is I saw Scarlett Johansson naked. I'm sure we can edit that out. So I would encourage you all to take more risks. Don't be afraid of failing. If it's fear that's stopping you, kick it in the nuts. If it's ego that's stopping you, kick yourself in the nuts if you have them. If you don't, I don't know. And yeah, just embrace the inner child. My favourite clip that we showed was the child that dumps the basketball, because before he gets knocked the hell out, there's that one moment of elation that we all feel when we do something amazing, yet are so afraid to express. There's something about being an adult that sort of takes the edge off life. And I'm not advocating acting childish and going out every night outside of these 4 days and getting hammered. Within these 4 days, rock on. But outside of these 4 days, don't do it. It's a bad life choice. But seriously, we all need to embrace our inner child, take more risks, and be less afraid of failure. We fall off the horse so we can learn to get back on. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln became president of the United States. And that's the story everyone tells. They don't tell the story that before that, he lost his job. He failed at business. In 1845, his sweetheart died. In 1846, he had a nervous breakdown. In 1868, he lost the vice president nomination. In 1866, he lost in Congress. In 1864, he lost the vice president nomination for the first time. And yet still he kept going in the face of such failure that on paper seems punishing, cruel, and heartbreaking. He never lost sight of what he wanted to achieve. And I would encourage that all of us go out, try and do something epic, not lose sight of what we want to achieve, and help make this world a better place. That's my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. That was brilliant. Really, really wise words. Now it's time for us to welcome onto the stage our penultimate speaker, who's come all the way from across the pond to be with us today. She's had a prolific career in comedy at major networks in the US and was one of the forces behind the huge hit Modern Family. I love Modern Family. Modern Family's sick, bruv. Anyway, welcome to the stage, Amy Hartwig.
Hi, everybody. I'm the only non-performer, so I have pages, please forgive. As he said, my resume, if you look at it, the one-page resume, looks pretty good. I've survived the television business for about 20 years. I have 3 kids. I was part of some great television shows. But the resume that people don't see would be 6 to 8 to 10 pages long, and those are all of the challenges that I took that were failures, if you will. I definitely believe that a person is measured by both their accomplishments and their failures, or better yet, how they handled their failures and made the best of it. You know, lemonade out of lemons, as they say. I wouldn't have had the successes that I've had without those failures, and I've learned so much from the risks taken. I thought I would give a couple of examples of challenges that I've had in my life and what I've learned from them first, and how they've shaped me to be who I am and how I react to adversity. So first one was, I was a junior executive in one of my first jobs, and it was my job to be the information gatherer and everyone's right-hand man. I did my job really well, maybe too well. I became indispensable. And when there were changes in the department happening, I went to the big boss and I asked him, to be promoted. It was my turn. His words, "You are an amazing Indian, but I'm not sure how you would be a chief." Excuse me? Now, there's many ways to react to that. First off, you doubt yourself and you say, maybe he's right. I am really good at being an Indian. Oh. But no, and needless to say, they gave me a nice settlement at that company. And the other thing I said to myself, don't call me an Indian, people. I'm only a chief. But the other thing I said to myself was that I deserve more. I deserve to be treated better. And now I have a very strong desire to prove myself as a leader, a very strong desire and a drive. Let's just say that they came back to me and begged me to stay as their Indian, and a few years later, that boss ended up being in a producing deal and was begging me to buy his shows. Karma's a bitch, people. The gamble on yourself. After that experience, I'd heard that I was going to get my dream job as a junior exec at a different company, 20th Century Fox, that produces modern. I was so excited. I shouldn't actually name the company. You'll see why. But when my friend called me to say the official offer was coming, my dad and I were at lunch, and my dad said, "This is amazing. You wanted this job for so long, and you need to get a new car. Let's go shopping for a car." We went shopping for the car. I was like, I'm getting promoted. I bought the car. I'm driving home. I'll never forget this. Ring, ring, phone call happens. Person, good news, officially, you got the job you wanted. Yay, I'm driving the new car home. Bad news is you're getting $20,000 less than you got in your previous job, and everybody wants this job, so take it or leave it. So what do you do there? I'm driving a new car home. How am I going to pay the payments and everything? Again, I was dealt with adversity a little bit, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? Free relationship advice when you make sure you tell your partner when you buy a car. I did not tell my husband. He didn't talk to me for 2 days. But anyway, the job situation was, never did that again. I've been married 17 years, so it worked out okay. Now for the job situation, I didn't know what to do. This was my dream job and a promotion, but the money was really bad. I felt like I had failed. I didn't have a choice, but I needed to make lemonade out of lemons. So I decided to believe in myself and show them what a valuable asset I could be. I would work 10 times as hard and get promoted quickly. And as a result, I was promoted within 9 months of me getting the job. And by the time I left that company 4 years later, I was making 3 times the money as when I started. So believe in yourself. Finally, don't play it safe. Leaving my cushy ABC network job to run a comedy department that in my mind was failing, I didn't know what to do. I heard the buzz, my name was all around that I'd be the one to maybe get this promotion, this job opportunity. But I had 3 little kids at home, and I had worked as a buyer for 6 years. I was given a lot of credit within the company for Modern Family for the first 2 years, and my job was something I felt confident in. And I had a loud voice there while not being the one ultimately responsible. Things were really good, and I knew that if I took on this challenge, my life would change, and I was putting a lot of things that I loved at risk. But why did I go to work at the studio? And there was so much pressure there, because high risk equals high reward. I brought my family actually into the decision, my husband and 3 young kids, and because it was going to affect them as well. And my son, who was 6 years old at the time, said, "Mom, go where the action is. Don't stay where you feel safe." And you know what? He was absolutely right. I love my new job. I've been there for 6 years now, and I still call it a new job, and it's a challenge every day, but we're rocking it together. So I'm proud that my son gave me that great advice, and now I see my kids make the riskier choices in their lives, and I'm so proud of them. Go where the action is. Don't feel safe. Now, the failures in a typical year in broadcast television, I thought that I would actually show you what it meant. We are at one of the ABC Studios is one of the biggest studios, maybe the biggest studio in the United States. And my boss is here, so it's probably going to overwhelm him. But this is the amount of pitches that we hear every year, including this bag. Comedy, drama, everything. That's about 400 pitches, 350 to 400 pitches, all this. This is the amount that we acquire to do one script. Take about 24 of these. Those are the scripts. Put those back in the failure pile. Those are like, let's say that's 24, about. Didn't pre-count. Great, 24 pilots. That means we make one pilot episode of it. Then we're like, yay, what series are getting picked up? In a good year, it's 10, but sometimes it's 8, but we'll say 10 for fun. Failures, all here. Guess who gets to make all the bad calls? We do. And then you're in a series, and this is maybe how many shows get a second season, and maybe that Modern Family hit maybe is here. So there you go. Now, I don't tell you this to deter you from coming into American television, I promise. I want all your pitches heard. And I can give you a few, and this is 1 year. 1 year, it happens every year, and as I said, I've been doing it 20 years, so it's a lot. But I don't want you to get defeated by the odds. 2 examples that we usually use is Steve Levitan, who created Modern Family, had been at the company that he was at for 20 years before, cost the company $100 million, I think is the word on the street. I don't know exactly. But Modern Family gave that company $1 billion, but it's because they invested in him and believed in him, and he kept coming back to try at the odds and work until the Modern Family had come. Chuck Lorre, he created Big Bang Theory, the biggest television show in the world. Warner Brothers, his studio, had invested $45 million in him. They were ready to have him out the door, and they said, hey, we have this script, will you supervise, called 2.5 Men? And the rest is history. He is worth more than all the candies in the world. So the reason I bring this up is, how do you lead when you work in a world that is such high risk? Because my team and I get invested in all these shows, and we are heartbroken when they don't make it, and we are the ones that have to make the bad calls and be the therapist to the people and the talent that we love so much, and we believe in so much, and we've invested in so much. So I came up with 5 things that I think are important in the way I lead and leading in a world of adversity. 1, remind your team what really matters. Friends, family, health, travel, experiences. I find that if people that work with me have passions outside of work, then your work isn't your end-all be-all. You have more interesting things to bring to the table, and you're also more inclined to take risks because the work isn't the most important thing to you in your life. You're not risking the things that actually matter the most to you. 2, create a safe environment for failure. 1 that will encourage risks. Also, please admit when you make a mistake. This is my biggest pet peeve. Nothing makes me crazier when someone makes a mistake and they open their eyes wide like this, millennials usually, sorry if you're there, and they start getting defensive and blaming others. Just say, I messed up. We all make mistakes. And remember, there are no bad ideas. Okay, there are some bad ideas, but if you throw them out against the wall, you never know when you're going to inspire, innovate somebody else. Number 3, I take risks. I make mistakes and let people that work with me see me do this. Be the role model in failure. I've had bosses in the past, not the one that's here, who always seem to keep this facade of perfection, and it creates an environment and a standard where people don't feel comfortable being less than perfect. Anyone that knows me, I am far from perfect, so it is set a table for it's okay to make mistakes. We all do it. 4, I don't ever say no. Okay, this has an asterisk, but when my executives or writers, producers come to me with an idea, I don't say no. I challenge them. I poke holes in their theories. I ask them a million questions. A lot of times they'll realize very quickly that their idea is thin and therefore not ready to be attempted. But sometimes they will go and do the research. They poke their own holes in their ideas, and they come back to me a lot more prepared. They can't get it out of their heads, and I respect that so much. And they're determined to prove that this should be done. These are the ideas that I respect the most and get excited about the most. Whether they make it the distance or not, they felt free to challenge themselves. And the final one, because I know I'm out of time, is I hire people that are risk takers. Only hire people that are risk takers. Lisa, who is my number 2, who is here, got a present last year from another team member. It was a painting, and it said, quote, I have a crazy idea, ... end quote. The reason she got this was because Lisa says that often, and she says, I have a crazy idea a lot, and when she does, I know something innovative and maybe a little crazy is about to come out of her mouth, and I cannot wait to hear what it is. Thank you. Candy for all.
Thank you, Amy. That's a hell of a lot of sweets up there. You know, that for all of us. We're sharing that out later. Great. Listen, I got some amazing themes out of that. You know, challenge yourselves, get out of your comfort zone. You know, I know that doesn't mean move to Peckham or anything like that, somewhere dangerous. But no, it's really important that you push yourself to the limit and take those risks, because that's when the beautiful things happen. Talking about beautiful thing, it's time for us to move on to our next speaker. It's our final speaker. So please give a big round of applause to a comic who sold out 100 dates on his recent PC World Tour. It's Paul Chowdhury, everybody.
Thanks a lot. I actually failed to bring a belt with me this festival, so if this falls down, just let me know.
Trouble.
This video could go viral. What I like about this Ed Talk is the authenticity of it. You know, we feel like failures, and then we play to a room 20% full to make us feel even more of a failure than we already are. Especially that section over there. 3 people right at the back, which aren't even in TV. So I failed to get a TED Talk. I'm on an Ed Talk, even better. I'm a stand-up, and I've been doing this for a long time now, but I decided that's not enough these days. Stand-ups have got to do other vehicles, other things that will get them through this career and to bring in an audience, and it's all changing out there. And I decided to move over to the dark side. No offense, mate. To the dark side.
Taxi again.
And I actually decided to make online videos. You might know about these online videos. I want to show you an example of an online video where I take on homosexuality. Here's a first example of this.
What's happening, Dad? What's happening, son? I'm all right, Dad. How you doing, you little slag? Just reading the newspaper, son. You getting some birds, are you, son? Of course I am, Dad. That's what I used to do back in my days, son. I used to get this bird, that bird. Of course I am, Dad. That's how I met your mum down the boozer. Did you? Like a father, like a son. I got something to tell you, Dad. What's that, son? I'm gay. Gay? What? That's all right, son, that's all right. Just get in there, my son. Get in there, you little son. I am going to get in there, Dad. Get it out of your system, mate. You're still my son, and I love you. Nice one, Dad. Yeah, have a look at that, son. Looks like your mum, that does.
You right, Dad?
Huh?
Dad, I've got something to tell you. I'm gay.
It's fucking out of your system, Panchoda.
So that's the first. See, these videos, I'd just like to point out, I'm also the producer, director, actor, writer, cameraman, cinematographer, lighting director, location setting, makeup artist, and stuntman in those videos. And I talk about the duality of cultures and how differences can happen, and a lot of this stuff is considered quite offensive to take on directly these days with certain left-wing agendas. You're not allowed to bring up these subjects. And they do quite well online, because online is kind of a free-for-all, and these actual videos get more views than most of the TV shows I've been on. I haven't been on many TV shows. But it comes at a cost. You get instant feedback. When you make these videos, you get an instant feedback, and that can make you feel like a failure, because the social online entertainment is like the devil's arsehole of the industry. Basically, there's a buzzword going around, and it's called troll. And a troll is basically someone who doesn't like you online, and we've actually given them the notoriety they've all been striving for. We've actually named them trolls. Keyboard gangsters, real-life wanksters. Trolls used to live under bridges, and now they can afford to buy computers and give you instant feedback. We live during a technological revolution at the moment, right, where we're actually involved with, and technology is an extension of ourselves, from phones to wearable technology. Within 10 years, they say, we can have mobile devices implanted within our own bodies. You know, if a woman says, "Why are you looking at my breasts?" you can say, "I'm on the phone." We express our approval and acceptance by meaningless likes these days. You press like on an update, someone's got a charity, press like. AIDS, press like. Gonorrhea, press like. Syphilis, press like. You know, people think they're doing something by liking something online. It's not going to do anything. You can't turn to Africa with a bunch of likes. You know, they're here to save us. What did you bring me? I got 700 likes. I don't like likes. I need rice. And this is where the trolls come in. Troll is a very young concept, 25 years ago. If you didn't like someone, you couldn't actually do anything about it. You just didn't like them, you know? Like, say if you didn't like George Michael, you'd have to find out who his agent was, right? Then you'd have to get an envelope. Then you'd have to get a letter. You'd have to write that letter. You'd have to put it in an envelope. You'd have to find a stamp. You'd have to go to the post office. You'd have to post off that letter, recorded delivery, which was even more, and then you'd have to find out whether he read that letter or not. Now it takes about 0.6 seconds to call someone a wanker online. You can't do that anymore. We don't have the Grace Kellys or the Greta Garbos. We are reachable. You know, people can come up to us on the street now. Like, I remember I bumped into Louis C.K., American comedian, and some fans came up to him and wanted a picture. And I remember he said to them, "Look, I don't want to take a picture. You're just doing this for meanings, like likes, and it doesn't mean anything, taking a selfie that you're going to put online. I'd rather get to know you for a few minutes as a human being." So I thought I'm going to try that with my fans. "Yeah, Paul, here's that geezer for your polo, mate. Can I have a picture?" I said, "Dave, I'd rather get to know you as a human being for a few minutes, you know. That's more than a picture. All right, come out with me and my bird. You can have a go on her later on, mate. We'll go out clubbing all night, have a right laugh. Just take the picture and get out of my face." You know, because the internet is still pretty much a free-for-all, a lawless minefield still in its infancy. People like to think they can be rude and as offensive as they like to people they don't even know. You know, you get trolled by these people, you get death threats. You know, I get a lot of threats online. I remember there was a show on Channel 4 last year called Muslim Drag Queens, and I put a tweet out saying the reason why there's so many homophobic Asians tweeting about this subject is because when they go home, they realize that the drag queens are much better looking than their actual wives. And I was defending the homophobia, like the way that these people have perceived this, and I got threats on it. People go, "I'm going to find you, bruv, innit? I'm going to come down to your show and stab you up, bruv. What are you going to do? I'm going to come down to your show, innit? It's £15 to get in. I'll wait for you outside, innit?" So this is what I'm saying. You know, you won't walk up to a stranger in the street and do that. So why do it online? Why do people think? It's like road rage. You're in a little bubble. They think they can't actually get through it. You know, like, and I take them on directly, because I'm a gangster. You can see that. I'm straight gangster. Me and Addy. You know.
Rap.
You know what I'm saying? I'm from the streets of Edgware, Middlesex. But I'm still from, they say sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Yeah, unless you're on Twitter and Facebook. They do hurt you. Now words do hurt people. Because I use my humor on stage and television, and now I actually take it to online. So I use my stage persona online. If they decide to engage with me online, I'm still Paul Chowdhury. I'm not a person at home in my own private life. That's not what they're thinking. They don't actually think. I use them like a heckler. If a heckler attacks me in a room and I take them on, that's what I'm going to do online. It's an extension of your persona. Entertainers, we don't really have private lives. We live in a very public life. Ultimately, people want to be entertained. You know, if I died on the way here, you still want to see me. You know, people say, I paid, is he dead? Well, I paid for a ticket, mate. I paid 15 quid for this tour, mate. I don't care, I want him on the stage now. That's how it works. And if I'm in the mood, right, I won't back down from a heckler. I won't back down from a troll. And I think this is how it should be. So I've kind of given you this background. I want to show you an example of what happens when I'm trolled. I expose them. What happens, I go on Snapchat, I do 10-second videos, and then I piece them together, and here's an example of one of them.
The fuck is up with that haircut? Seriously, mate. Millions of people watch you. Go to a decent barber and sort that shit out. Sam Sparta Chowdhury. That's how, you must have a wicked haircut if you're saying that. Oh, Sam Sparta Chowdhury, the style icon, cussing me. You must be a style guru from Kingston, Jamaica. What kind of Bengali comes from Kingston, Jamaica? Well, let's take a look then, shall we? That's not Sam Sparta Chowdhury. Now that's Sam Sparta Chowdhury with the braids. I mean, this... Leave it out, Sam Sparta Chowdhury. And Tracy just called. She wants her hair straighteners back.
So that was another one of the videos. So this is what I'm saying, you can't back down. You know, I made about 20 of these videos where I took on my trolls, and I put them on Facebook and YouTube, and the combined views exceeded 10 million views. So you wouldn't be able to get that on TV, really, unless you were to take, and I'm not sure whether I'd be able to get clearance on that video. I did receive several death threats and have a hotline to the police, but it was worth it. I've been a stand-up comedian for 18 years. I've done 2 DVDs with Universal Pictures. My last tour was extended 3 times and ran for 2 years. It sold around 100,000 tickets, and that was partly due to what happened online, you know, with the videos and trolls. I may have needed extra security on these tours, and I was fearful for my life, but it was worth it. When I got paid for the tour, when they removed the expenses for the security, I was able to afford an iPad. So all I'm saying, I think I've kind of got all my points out here. You know, that's basically what I'm saying. So people like Stephen Fry shouldn't be shutting down their Twitter accounts. If you're watching, Stephen, I've got your back. Not literally. I mean, I've got his back, you know, backup.
We understand. We've got you.
That wasn't a... That's pretty much my point. So thanks for watching. You've been a great crowd.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. That was wicked. And listen, I understand that whole online trolling stuff. It's just crazy what's going on. I did a documentary not long ago about polio and about trying to get kids, more kids vaccinated. And I remember getting on Twitter, people saying, who the hell do you think you are, giving people vaccines and trying to encourage people to get better and get well? I mean, what kind of madness is that that you get on Twitter? And yeah, I think no one should back down. Take them all on. Take them all on. But listen, today has been awesome. Thank you very much to our fantastic speakers. I think we should give them another round of applause. Just quick summary and some thoughts on the themes of today. And I think you know, every successful person has failed at some point in their lives. You know, it's part and parcel of being successful. You know, and I think that one of the most key things is never be afraid to do something because of the fear of failure. You know, that is what holds you back. For me, it took me. I was cut 6 times. Over a period of 10 years as I was trying to get into the national team. You know, I was deselected and I was told time and time again that I wouldn't make it into the national team, but I persevered. You know, I even had to deal with my father, you know, telling me that I was crazy. You know, what are you doing? Why are you trying to play this crazy sport? Why don't you become a doctor or a journalist or something like this? Are you an idiot? But I just kept at it because it was what I loved. It was what I was passionate about. I think I'm just going to finish off with a quote from Michael Jordan, who's one of my heroes. And he said, you know, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my career, and that's why I succeed. You know, I think it's really important. Never hold back and never be afraid to make mistakes. But yep, that's we've come to the end of today's session. Before we go, I'd just like to thank our sponsors today, UK TV, and also thank you guys for turning up, especially those guys over there, you know, that big crew. But thank you very much. Thanks.